Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about elementary school arithmetic. It seems to me that elected officials should be able to perform third or fourth grade arithmetic. Multiplication and division would be a bonus, but we'll settle for addition and subtraction. Amazon announced last week that it had leased 335,000 square feet of office space in the Hudson Yards project on Manhattan's west side. Hudson Yards is the project that was built on the old rail yards that bordered the shipping piers along the Hudson River. That was back in the day when shipping came directly into Manhattan. Today, most shipping commerce comes into much larger container ship terminals in Newark, New Jersey. The Hudson Yards project was the brainchild of the Trump organization and was more than 20 years in the making. The space will house some 1,500 employees. This, despite the earlier Amazon announcement to pull out of locating the so-called HQ2, their satellite headquarters in Long Island City. The original plan would have brought 25,000 direct jobs and nearly double that number in pull-through employment. In response to the Amazon announcement, Senator Mike Gianaris issued a press release on Friday declaring victory over Amazon. He said, "Amazon is coming to New York just as they always planned. Fortunately, we dodged a $3 billion bullet by not agreeing to their subsidy shakedown earlier this year. Now we must enact reforms to our economic development programs to ensure no company can seek to take advantage of the public again." Since Amazon's decision to leave New York in February, Senator Gianaris introduced legislation to ban secrecy clauses in economic development agreements and delink state opportunity zone tax breaks from the federal tax code. Now, I don't have a political axe to grind in any of this. I do have a strong opinion that arithmetic has no political affiliation. 1 + 1 = 2, and 25,000 jobs is a lot larger than 1,500. A tax reduction is not the same as a government grant. In order for Amazon to benefit from the tax reduction, they would have had to pay taxes, a lot more taxes, than New York City and New York State are collecting today. The addition of 1,500 jobs is positive, but it's really a loss of 23,500 jobs instead of a loss of 25,000 jobs. The loss of 25,000 jobs was entirely the work of a few politicians actively doing the unfathomable. New York has lost considerable population and considerable tax revenue in the last few years. 1 million people have left the New York tri-state area over the last 9 years. According to Bloomberg, almost 300 people a day are moving out of the area. Now, these statistics make sense to anyone who's living in these places. The cost of living expenses, the crumbling infrastructure, the high tax rates are a big problem for residents. If you live in New York City, you're forced to pay exorbitant taxes. The schools, bridges, tunnels, trains, airports, hospitals, they're all falling apart. When politicians make patently false statements in order to aid their political narrative, they erode the political system as a whole. Perhaps Senator Gianaris wouldn't mind a system whereby his income would be reduced every time he utters falsehoods. He probably would declare the consequence to be a victory too. He could use the same math that he argued Amazon was fleecing the taxpayers of New York with. The reduction of revenue for the state of New York and New York City is hard for the city to tolerate. The city has gone through considerable resurgence since the 1970s and 80s when the city was on the verge of bankruptcy. They couldn't repair the crumbling infrastructure. They had 1.3 million people on welfare at the time. And after Mayor Giuliani took office, that number was reduced to 500,000. Nearly 800,000 people went back to work under Mayor Giuliani. I regularly visit New York and I see the evolution of the city's fortunes from one year to the next. And when I visit New York today, it's starting to remind me of the bad old days. Roads are in disrepair, bridges are not being maintained, and large chunks of concrete are falling onto roadways. The job of Mayor of New York City is a huge job. It's one that requires daily commitment. Mayor de Blasio was often missing in action as he furthered his presidential ambitions. The fact is that business leaders know how to do math. The issue is not just with Amazon. New York has sent a signal to the business community that it's no longer open for business. And when the most basic arithmetic is distorted to reflect a particular narrative, every business leader can see it for what it is. It's not even a sophisticated lie that might take some detective work to figure out. The primitive nature of the distortion is particularly shocking. Sadly, this sort of thing is becoming increasingly common. We're seeing it on both sides of the political spectrum. So I went down to my desk drawer and pulled out my old calculator from when I was in university. It performed flawlessly and reliably. I couldn't fool it. I added 1,500 and I subtracted 25,000, and each time the answer was negative 23,500. I did the calculation several times just to be sure. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.